Set Me Free Part 2 starts with a cry. A cry for help. Face was a journey towards change. The 4 tracks in the album describing pain and depression, loneliness and escapism. It's a process from Face Off, a song about alcoholism, to Set Me Free Part 2, about change. The title is pretty obvious with the intent. Set Me Free is a great title because it begs the question, free from what? The lyrics are very short and straightforward. I like to describe it as raw. It's not the prettiest, and there are some odd moments. It's messy. It feels like the first draft of a script, unpolished, just extremely raw. Jimin did say that he struggled with writing lyrics. What he felt, he wrote down. So I think I'm pretty accurate with my wording. If we look at it from a general perspective, we could see that the verse talks about pain and depression, and once we got to the pre-chorus and the chorus, it talks about that change, that feeling of finally breaking free from his bonds. Maze was mentioned in both verses. The first one is I got lost in a maze, and the second one, I'm still in a maze. Maze is commonly used to symbolize confusion, feeling lost, and also pilgrimage. That's new to me. The fact that Jimin mentioned that he is stuck or is in the maze twice means that perhaps the verse talks about him in confusion. There are also some other parts of the first verse that I think is pretty noteworthy. I never stop, again, repeat. This could mean a multitude of different things, but going back to the theme of the whole album, about him struggling with alcoholism as told in Face Off, and also the mention of Hennessy and alcohol, I understood this as, well, alcoholism. The second verse has the heaviest autotune of the whole song. Although it's not only autotune, I don't know if you've heard autotune in the works, but basically what it does is that it corrects your pitch. Most of the things that makes Jimin's voice sounds unclear is the other plugins. It's the effects. And funnily enough, the second verse talks about breaking free from something. It's a cry of frustration. The effects make it seem like it's played through a barrier of some kind, like when you put a blanket over a speaker. His voice is subdued, and the autotune makes it even harder for us to listen what his voice sounds like. It's like trying to break free, like punching his way through the song with his voice. People have mixed feelings about this part because of the effects and the autotune. I'm probably one of the weird one that just doesn't really care. I listen to the song for the song, not for Jimin's voice. But I understand that if people are frustrated by just how much effects are used in the song. I've seen comments where they talk about artistic choice, and yes, this part is definitely an artistic choice. I agree with that. The part that I don't agree with is when they said artistic choice is always meant to enhance. Now, I didn't go to art school, but I did do film school, and film is basically art. When we talk about artistic choice, it's always about why we do things that way. Why is the film noisy? Why is the background dark? Why do we have minimal lighting? Why is it so bright or so dark? Why are the colors muted? If you listen to these descriptions, you wouldn't think that the film would look nice, but it's what artistic choice means. It's enhancing, but not necessarily to every single person's ears. It gives the song a deeper meaning, something to think about, something to mull about and analyze, and for art nerds like me to break down and appreciate. You don't have to like it, and I understand if you don't. There's nothing wrong with frowning at an artistic choice because, well, it doesn't sound nice. People have done that for years, and that's why art films are generally less popular than Hollywood films, because artistic choice. Just for the sake of it, because I really like the song. Your opinion is wrong and I am right. Oh my god, that's just so cringe. There's a phrase in the pre-chorus that I'd like to talk about. The literal translation is trying to be crazy to not be crazy, but the more lyrical translation is going insane to stay sane. It's very intriguing, isn't it? Initially, since I thought this was about the idol world, this was about looking like you're going crazy in front of 1,000 people to not be crazy because you have to be your true self. And then I found out this was about Jimin's struggles, so that doesn't necessarily work anymore. So the meaning really changed. I thought long and hard about what this meant, and imagining someone facing their own self, I start to look back on how I deal with my problems. It does sometimes make me look like I'm crazy, getting angry at no particular reason, suddenly breaking down because I remember a word, or shouting at someone for the simple things they said. Healing isn't easy. It's a painful process, and most of the time, it's better to just escape. The phrase "set me free" is repeated 22 times in the song. Is it 22? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. It can feel a bit too much, but you have to acknowledge the instrumentals are really good. This song is the most chaotic, the most different out of all the songs in the album. It's big. The scale of it sounds like it's meant to be played in a concert, in a place with large audiences and large places. And every single part of it is loud. The choir, the brass, Jimin's singing, everything wants to be loud. It's like they're racing to be the loudest. It kind of feels like our state of mind when a really large problem arises. It's confusing and chaotic. And with "Set Me Free" repeated 22 times, it feels like someone in a state of panic, of someone just in confusion and trying to break free. It's like a cry for help. But help from whom? Face is the title of the album, and Jimin said in Suchita that face doesn't necessarily always mean our face. It can mean like it's facing something, like facing our depression, our pain, our struggles, our problems. Change comes from within, and so that cry was for Jimin himself to finally change. Making this video was a journey. It wasn't easy, and I really struggled with writing the script. I think this is like the 5th draft or something. The process of research led me into this rabbit hole of getting to know the album Face, and I'm really intrigued by the theme of it. The fact that face meant looking at oneself, looking in a mirror, and finally changing, and finally being brave enough to change our lives away from all the pain and depression just really took my interests, and I just had to talk about it. I also have an orchestra cover of "Set Me Free Part 2 in the video right here. Either one. This cover was the beginning of this video of me trying to find out exactly the meaning of the cover, so please listen to it. I personally really like how it sounds like. If you'd like to support me, you can buy me a coffee. Links are in the description below. This has been Fairly Music, and I will see you next time. Bye bye! If you guys are wondering how last video I have like gray longer hair. This is the hair.